Hello and welcome to Chronological Clone Wars presented by the Podawakens. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Oh, I'm doing well. What a ride this has been, Jordan. We're already to season 6 now. So um, this
After these
is
episodes, yeah.
after these episodes. It's like yes, that's no, we're not jumping to season 6. But yeah, after this season 6, man, like season 5, you've been a blast. But we're getting ready to launch it. I always hate when these shows are coming to an end. I'm like, oh man, like how do I? I'm not seeing these for the first time anymore after I watch this. So I don't know. I always get sad whenever I watch a show all the way through because it's like, man, I just watched that in warp speed, which is what we
yeah.
pretty much do nowadays. But
Yeah, really warp speed for us. We've
right,
been knocking these things out. Um, yeah, we're talking the last 3 episodes of season 5. Episode 17, 18, and 19. Sabotage, the Jedi who knew too much, and To Catch a Jedi. And those episodes premiered on February 16th, February 23rd, and March 2nd of 2013. And they were all written by Charles Murray. Actually, sorry. February 9th, February 16th, February 23rd, March 2nd. It's 17, 18, 19, 20 are the episodes that we're talking about. Sabotage, the Jedi who knew too much to catch a Jedi, and the Wrong Jedi are the episodes we are talking about. And the synopsi on Disney Plus. Anakin and Ahsoka investigate a bombing at the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka finds herself running out of allies and alternatives. The fugitive Ahsoka escapes to Coruscant, and on trial for murder, Ahsoka is expelled from the Jedi Order. These were directed by Brian Kalen O'Connell, Danny Keller, Kyle Dunleavy, and Dave Filoni. All right, Logan, let's dive on in. Your general thoughts on the end of Ahsoka's arc here in season 5.
absolutely insane. I thought very quick, but um, left me wondering. Like, is this how we've gotten now to where we are with Ahsoka? And I'm assuming she comes back for Clone Wars, so you get a little bit more information on her expulsion from the Jedi. But overall, I mean, this is where I'm like, all right, we're now to the point where I feel like Clone Wars isn't going to miss with episodes, and I felt like straight through these 4, I was on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going on, knew that this was coming. um, I don't know. I was really excited to see these because I was like, all right, we're getting more of why Ahsoka is the way that she is in the live action show, and because I love the live action. It's probably one of my favorite, standing up against Mandalorian as far as live action is concerned. So I was really excited to get her story, and man, did it deliver on all fronts, at least for me.
Yeah, I was really curious on what, because you were not spoiled on this, were you?
Mm-mm.
This is something I knew about before I finished watching the
Had
Clone
no
Wars,
idea.
that she ended up leaving the Jedi Order like this. So, what was that like when you get to, I guess, the end, right? Like the end
Yeah,
of these 4 episodes when they offer her back in? Were you like thinking she was going to come back in, or did you just kind of think at that point like, oh, too much damage was done?
I thought she was going to come back in, and then maybe there was some kind of way that she, because the Jedi are all eliminated, that's how she ends up, on her own. And yeah, no, I did not see that coming. I did not see the end of that coming. I thought it was very interesting. But again, Jordan, and we can get into this, like we've talked about before. I think there's a lot of what the Jedi Order does wrong that exile Ahsoka and Anakin. And maybe it's an extension of Anakin, where they're keeping him at arm's length, which then keeps her at arm's length. And Anakin feels bad. You can tell Anakin feels really bad about the way that the Jedi Order have treated her, and they didn't believe her. Like it's shocking to me. I've started to lose more and more respect for the Jedi Order, um, and the Council themselves. Just the further that we've gotten into the show, and this really cements it for me, where I think Ahsoka was in the right the whole time, and you got to trust her.
Yeah, though, I'll say I think while the Jedi don't handle this correctly, it's because of Palpatine's machinations again, right? He sends Tarkin in, and he sends Tarkin in to be like, kind of like, hey, if you guys don't investigate it this way or give her a trial this way, it'll be seen as sedition and as an act against the Republic. And it leads the Jedi to be like, well, what do we do? Do we do our own trial where she probably would have been cleared? Or do we have to do what the Republic says so that way we don't end up having to face the Republic and the Separatists at the same time? Like, they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. But again, that's because of what the Jedi Order have done at this point, right? We've talked so much about how they're so ingrained with the Republic. And while they want to try to keep separate, they fail at that, right? Like even in this, they want to seem separate. They're like, we'll do our own trial, then we'll do what you want to do. But because of the way that the Republic's like, well, if you do that, it kind of means that you're against us. And they have to kind of bend to the Republic's will when they shouldn't be bending to the Republic's will. They, yes, fight for the ideals of the Republic, but they are not an arm of the Republic. They are not part of the actual Republic military. But they've let themselves be by becoming generals in their war. And it leads to this point where they have to do something that's best for all of the Jedi in compared to what's right for the Jedi that's under investigation. And it ends up harming Ahsoka so much that when she gets offered back in, she says, no, I cannot be a part of this. And I think that's really interesting the way that she acts, so mature for her age at this point when she was not that when we first started out, right? She was that, and you see her grow throughout this whole thing, and she kind of gets so hurt here, and everything is set so much against her in this. But you're right, the Jedi are too easy to be like we talked about last week, Kiadi Mundi, right? What does he say in here? I think I have his notes here, but he was somebody that was like, too bad, so sad, pretty much is what Kiadi Mundi's reaction was. And that's kind of how it ended up working out for her. Even like Mace kind of pushes back a bit where he's like, oh, we really should be doing our own trial of this. But again, once Tarkin kind of mentions how that would be looked at by the Republic, he's kind of like, all right, I guess that's what we have to do. And even Yoda doesn't do enough here, right? Anakin and Obi-Wan are the only ones that know that Ahsoka is innocent. Obi-Wan tries. He tries, but he knows he's outvoted to the rest of the council, right? Like what does Obi-Wan says, I think I have it right here. Oh, he doesn't want to do what Tarkin says about the trial. He says we need to stand by Ahsoka. And they pretty much tell him, hey, you're too close to this. It's Anakin's apprentice. Anakin was your apprentice. Like, shut up. It's pretty much what they tell Obi-Wan. And, they say it would be seen as an act against the Senate. And that's where Obi-Wan's like, I'm pretty much outvoted. Like, there was nothing Obi-Wan could do. I know some people give Obi-Wan a hard time for this, but I really don't think there was much. Like, it depends. Does the council take a vote, or do they have to be like a jury where they all agree? Because then Obi-Wan could have held out some. But if it's a vote, then Obi-Wan's outvoted and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think of it like that. But I'm assuming, yeah, you're right. I think it'll be more of a vote. I don't know if it's a unanimous kind of process.
I think so too. Well, we get somebody blowing up the temple here, and we find out it's nanodroids that were in the bloodstream, and it was the nanodroids were given to Jakar by Jakar's wife. Talk about some dark stuff going on there. Which like maybe she's trying to act normal, Jakar's wife, because she shows up at the temple like something happened, right? And then Anakin is showing the picture of Jakar to people like, hey, this is who we think may have done it. And she calls attention to herself to be like, oh, that's my husband. That's my husband. Give me some information about my husband. And it's like maybe that was to try to throw everybody off, but she could have just stayed away from the temple and probably gotten away with it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was. Gosh, I was thinking about those droids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a way to go! Just get into your bloodstream and explode from the inside. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Anytime with the nano droids, it makes me think of Big Hero 6.
Oh yeah,
How they do like the
those little
nanobot
things.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Also destructive.
Yeah. Well, imagine eating those.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
not good.
Yeah, that's like eating magnets. Like you hear horror stories of kids eating magnets and it rips through them because they try to connect to one another. Horror stories of that. So that's what I'm like.
So
Just
don't eat magnets.
yeah, don't eat magnets is the moral of this podcast. Can we call it that? Can we call it Chronological Clone Wars? Don't eat magnets.
Don't eat magnets. I thought you meant the whole podcast was because don't eat magnets, and people were
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what they're talking about now. But the droid who's investigating at the end here says no Jedi were involved, but we learned that was false as well. We open with Yoda giving a eulogy in the next episode, and Tarkin tells him that they've moved the bomber to a secure location. And Palpatine says, hey, I want to actually lessen. Tarkin says this. Palpatine wants to lessen Jedi involvement in the military. And the Jedi are kind of like, that's not a great idea, but whatever. Especially after the Jedi were just attacked. Like, I don't know, like it didn't like the Jedi were kind of like, that's a weird move from Palpatine. And again, they're not putting any of this together. He's given them so much reason to be like, this guy is kind of odd lately.
Yeah.
But he's the Chancellor, whatever. I guess whatever he says goes.
He's creepy anyway. He gives me the creeps. Like it's definitely one of those old men that just sit behind a desk and make some really questionable decisions.
Plays with his lightsaber. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Innuendo there. Yeah. He's got, secretaries he shouldn't have. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You're disgusting.
We get Barriss. Offie is there. She's talking with Ahsoka. The prisoner is only going to talk to Ahsoka, though. So, Ahsoka goes in there and she says, I was told if I ever needed your help, you'd be the Jedi I would contact. All right, so we know Barriss set this up.
Set up.
So did Barriss tell this lady that if there's a Jedi to contact Ahsoka, that way she could put this plan in action?
I think so. Like I
think so too.
Barriss is really smart. I give her that. Like she seems very calculated. When she has that interaction with Anakin later, I feel like she had me fooled. Like
that's what I was going to ask. Did you know it was Barriss?
No, I had no idea. No idea. I thought one, she was really trying to help Ahsoka. I thought they had a really good relationship. I thought that weird connection between her and the Separatist and Anakin or Ahsoka and obviously the Republic. It was kind of like, okay, like I get it. Like they've got differences and they can't all be friends and she might align with some of the more values of the Separatists, but in no way, shape or form. Jordan, I thought initially like it was going to be somebody from the outside, whether it would like a Ventress or like, somebody that they could have convinced to be part of this plan and go along with it. And also, maybe the Hutt. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was going to be somebody else that they relied on, not Barriss. And then she has that interaction with Anakin later. And even then when I was like, when it was probably pretty obvious to some people, I was like, no way. Like, Anakin's just going to find out that Barriss had maybe a little to do with it, but nothing crazy like this.
So when did you? So you didn't realize it until she whipped.
Not until she starts. Yeah, not until she starts fighting Anakin. I was like, oh, okay,
interesting. Because I feel like, look, I mean, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I feel like the clue really is when Asajj is mentioning. Well, she wasn't the only one she spoke to. But you're right. Like you said, that might just mean that she isn't fully part of it, that she's only a little in on it. But no, she is the one that actually did all of this. Wild. Wild stuff. So she kills the bomber, right? I mean, yeah, she kills the bomber because she makes the wife feed the nanobots, but she also kills the wife. Right, with the force choke and make it look like Ahsoka. Ahsoka, maybe don't be like, hey, how can I get you down from there and make it look like you're force choking him? Like, I don't know, maybe try something else than that if you're being recorded. That would look not as suspicious. She ends up, for some reason, she doesn't kill Asajj. I guess Asajj should be thankful that she didn't kill her. And then she sets up Ahsoka to the warehouse for the nanobots. So that's all the stuff that she's done. So we have Ahsoka getting arrested because it looks like Ahsoka force choked her. And look, this is all set up. I don't know if this is set up by Barriss or by Palpatine or something, but Tarkin says, curiously, the sound isn't working on this. Talking about the recording. Like, of course it's not working. Like, of course the sound's not working because that would have cleared Ahsoka. So somehow that's either a Barriss thing that she did or part of it has to be. That's what I really wonder. I know, and it's going to sound dumb, but like, so this is all Barriss's plan, right?
Yeah.
And we find out it's not because of the separatist stuff. She
Right.
actually is anti-separatist. She's anti. She thinks the Jedi are falling to the dark side by getting too involved, becoming too political. She's right.
I was gonna say she's not wrong.
She's right. She does it the wrong way. She has a point though.
Right.
Now, Palpatine and Tarkin, do they have anything to do with this, or is it like somebody's framing Ahsoka? Let's try to do this now so that way we can get Ahsoka away from Anakin so that way I can start getting my hands into Anakin a little bit more. Because Palpatine and Tarkin jump right onto this.
Right.
The sound's not working. So it has to be part of them, but maybe not working with Barriss, but just kind of like this is working in our favor. Let's use this and try to get Ahsoka out of here and out of our way. Because Tarkin goes for the death penalty, by the way. Yeah. He says, we're going to sentence you to death.
Right. I was like, whoa, that's intense, because I feel like they just arrest people at this point. I've never seen them execute anybody that I thought that was wild.
And not till Order 66.
No, yeah, not until then. But no, I think you're right. I think that is a really good point. Like, I wonder, it did feel like they didn't know Barriss was really behind it until later. Like, they were kind of like, oh, well, this is working out pretty well. I guess we can frame her. Yeah, I think it's till later. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like their plans never go accordingly. So this is a lot of Barriss. I mean, I feel like Barriss knows what she's doing, because I feel like her people were a lot more in tune and involved and more convincing to the Jedi. Like, I feel like Barriss, when is it her mother? That I think they're much more in tune and in sync with what the Jedi are thinking, and can predict what the next step's going to be.
Did you see something about Barriss's mom?
Who is it that Barriss is with? That she's
her master, Luminara.
That's who it was.
Her master is Luminara.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was like,
Luminara, who was totally fine with leaving Barriss and Ahsoka buried under rubble on Geonosis.
Right.
This is what radicalized Barriss, by the way. She was probably like, my master, a Jedi master.
That's right. That's what it was.
Fine with leaving me behind. I think there's something wrong here. Yeah. Like, I think that would radicalize anybody. But yeah, somebody leaves a card for Ahsoka to escape. She thinks Anakin did it. Obviously, this is Barriss. Making it look even worse, right? Rex and Anakin arrive to try to help. They try to get Ahsoka to stop running. Clones were killed, by the way. So that's other people Barriss has killed. Clones. Make it look like Ahsoka did that. Anakin says he believes her, but she says no one else will. That's why I have to go and prove it myself. So she does take off. She lands and jumps on a ship. She's gonna go. To Catch a Jedi opens with Tarkin talking to the Jedi Council. Master Plo Koon's like, I can't believe Ahsoka would do this. And they send two teams, Master Skywalker and Master Plo. Mace doesn't want Anakin to go. Obi-Wan rightfully here says they would be foolish to take Anakin off of this because Ahsoka would talk to Anakin. Like, you cannot pull him off of this. But yeah, like you said, of course, Mace is like, I don't know about this guy.
Here's my thing. Mace Windu dies, right?
He does.
He's part of this.
No,
That's my
no, he's not
conspiracy
part of
theory. Is he's a jerk. That's what he is. I really can't stand Mace Windu, and I really liked Mace. Maybe it was because the purple lightsaber, and it was Samuel L. Jackson. So I really do like Samuel, but like, come on, like, why do you gotta be so difficult? He would have been one I'd have been like, why you acting so strange? Like when things were going wrong, he'd have been the first person I questioned, not Ahsoka. Like Mace is out here, him or it's just like, what is happening? Why? Why you got to be difficult? He just
Yeah.
doesn't trust Anakin. I get it, but
You know what I really dug about these last two episodes here, this one and the one before this, are the how stormy it was during these. Like
yeah,
when she's on the run, it's like raining, and then when
yeah,
Tarkin's talking to the council, it's all
yeah.
like storming,
It
and it's
felt
kind of
very
showing
real.
like how like we never see rain on Coruscant really.
Mm-mm.
It's always this nice starry night
Yeah,
that they're out there. So seeing the rain there, it's like showing like the dark side is infiltrating it, and
yeah.
just kind of real moody. I like the mood it created.
Very
Well, Ahsoka's
Camino too. Like when they're on
yes,
Camino during
yeah.
Attack of the Clones. So yeah,
Ahsoka's in the lower levels. She calls Barriss and she says, "Someone's trying to frame me." And Barriss is like, "No shit, it's me." Uh, she's like, "I'll do some digging to help bury you even further."
yeah.
Ahsoka breaks the comm link. She trades some food for a cloak, and she gets noticed on a train. She gets this whole fight with clones. She does save a kid who was on the elevator that's crashing at the same time. By the way, the kid's the MVP here. The kid's like, "Hey, there's an
Absolutely.
emergency button.
Yep.
I'm gonna push that," and Ahsoka's like, "Good going, kid."
Yeah.
But Ahsoka still has to open up the window and bring the kid out.
The kid's force wielding. Gotta be.
Yeah. Or just can read. He's like, "This says emergency." Ahsoka's like, "I gotta fix this."
Jedi do go to the extreme. I'm not gonna lie to you. They jump
You're
out
too
of cars.
dependent. You're too dependent on the lightsaber and the Force. They're
They really
like,
are.
they don't read.
Yeah, it's like they chop off like the light switch when they turn the lights off at night. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I should have thought
I'll
about that.
fix that in the morning.
Right?
We get a masked person watching. Did you have any idea who this was before she introduces herself here?
Yes, this one I
Yeah,
figured out. I
the
was like,
build. It's the
yes,
build of them.
the
Yeah.
build
But
and the
she's
way
wearing a
that she kind
mask.
of
Yeah.
slinks across. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know who this is. So yeah, that one I was like, I guess I just was not paying attention to the Barris parts because I was just assuming Barris was helping.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's how they try to phrase it, and you do know that they were friends, and they've had other run-ins
Right.
in the show, so you didn't really think like, oh, this, like maybe if it was a new Jedi we were introduced to that didn't have history, you'd be like, oh, it's kind of weird how this new Jedi is friends with her. We've never seen this Jedi
Yeah.
before, but we've seen Barriss in other arcs, and they've been friends, so you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, like obviously,
I was
who
convinced
would
Zero
suspect
wasn't.
Barriss?
I was convinced Zero wasn't dead. And
Oh yeah, Zero the Hutt, yeah,
he's like, oh, here I am.
yeah, he's dead. Asajj attacks, right? And Ahsoka rightfully thinks Asajj is the one that framed her. That's what you thought too. And Ahsoka asks for her help and says that she will offer a full pardon for her help. We get Anakin and Rex arriving right at the wrong time to see Ahsoka with Asajj. It's like, Ventress, just lower the helmet, please. Lower the helmet so that way they don't know who she's with. It's the one time she has her helmet like fully open is when the Jedi are looking at her. It's like, maybe, like she should have instinctively been like, oh, there's people coming, let me lower it. But she's just like, what's going on?
It's the one time she's confused. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Ahsoka calls Barriss again, and Barriss tells her to go 3 levels up to an abandoned warehouse. And Asajj is like, oh, I know that place.
Hang out there
And
all the time. Love it. It's a good spot to hang out.
Asajj gets there, leaves her there, and then gets attacked by Barriss, and she steals her lightsaber and her lightsabers and her mask, and Barriss will wear this stuff and attack Ahsoka.
I'm convinced that Big Hero 6 ripped off this part of the Clone Wars. This
Yeah.
feels too. It's like the nanobots, and now they've got the warehouse fight with the mask thing, and I'm like, this is Big Hero 6's plot.
I'll say Big Hero 6 was already being made
That's-
during this time,
that's a good
so
point.
like it came out less than a year later,
That's a
so
good
they would have already been well into this. But we get Commander Wolf. We get the return of Commander Wolf. He was in the episodes with the droids in that arc. He was the one that was like, um, what was I gonna say? With Commander Wolf, not the ones with the little people that attacked R2 and like and 3PO in that 2-episode arc or whatever. And Wolf is a commander there, and uh, he's in that. He'll show up in other stuff later on, but we get Commander Wolf and the clones arriving. Ahsoka says to Ventress like, "Hey, don't kill these people, please." And Ventress doesn't. She cuts the guns. Then they get to the warehouse, and that's when all that stuff happens. Ahsoka is then caught with the nano droids. Wolf stuns her. Anakin is still thinking something's up. He's like, something's still not right here. Props to Anakin for not falling for any of this BS, by the way. We open up the next episode with Tarkin talking to the council again. Yoda wants a fair trial. The Senate think an internal Jedi trial is not good enough. Senate wants her expelled as a Jedi and then face a military hearing. Like I said before, Obi-Wan's like, we shouldn't do this. We should stand by her. And the rest of the council says, well, it might be seen as an act against the Senate, so we have to do it. So we get this cool room with the Jedi Council judgment, right? Like Ahsoka gets put up in this platform and they're all kind of like circling her in this weird arena with very dim lighting. Makes them look kind of evil. And Anakin is upset that they've already reached a decision and the meeting is a sham, right? And they're like, yes, we have reached a decision. We will have to expel Ahsoka. So then Anakin and Padme visit her. Padme is going to represent her in court, and Anakin leaves to go solve it. And one thing I'll say about the Senate's hearing, all right, much faster than any sort of American hearing we've ever seen. This trial is over before Anakin can even do like 2 things to verify what's going on. I don't know how long it's supposed to take, but this thing was over in like less than 8 hours.
Yeah, I feel like they did the whole thing where they do in Harry Potter where they tell Dumbledore the wrong time to come to the trial, and it was already decided well before they could ever show up to defend Harry. And so, but yeah, no, this is, yeah, Jordan. But too, like when this would happen, they would be like, all right, we're going to set a trial for 8 months down the road.
Yeah.
Because we got to gather all this stuff. So yeah, this is crazy to me. This is when the Jedi should go. Kind of strange that the Senate, out of all the things they're dealing with in this war, right, that all of a sudden that they can, like, this is the ultimate, like, this would
a bombing at the Jedi Temple was the
right.
biggest thing to do right now.
Yeah, like it wasn't like any bombing that's happened in the United States. It wasn't like they were like next day they're like, we should probably go to trial now.
Right.
So,
I will say it's effective though. I mean,
it is.
Look, I wish our legal system would work half as fast as this. But, it kind of shows it's a sham here with just how fast. We don't actually ever know what the verdict would have been, right? Because they say that they've reached a decision, and as Palpatine's about to read it, Anakin walks in. So we actually don't know if she was found guilty or not, because some of the people on that panel is like Mon Mothma and other like good-sided people that may have been swayed by Padme's defense, right? Like, I don't know. Like, that's pretty interesting that we don't actually know what it would have been. I think with Palpatine's smile as he's about to read it, we know what it was, but we don't actually get to hear what it was. By the way, the building that they're doing this in looks very empirical, doesn't it? Like,
yes.
They show the outside of it. It has the red flag waving. It looks very Nazi-ish, right?
Yep.
You have the room looks like some of the Death Star.
I was going to say
rooms.
the Death Star rooms, like the
we're starting to see that shift from Republic to Empire even before the war is over.
Yeah, another red flag. Like, why? What?
Literally,
what are we going on?
Literally, there's red flags flying everywhere out there.
This is looking very authoritarian. What's going on?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Just some remodeling we're doing in the middle of a war. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. we're spending all this money on clones, but
Yeah,
we're gonna
right.
redecorate the.
Yeah. Great interest rates at these times. They were
But it
like, we got to get
happens
it done.
during war, doesn't it? Because people become very
Yeah,
nationalistic. I mean, we saw it after September 11th, right,
right.
where people were
Oh, American
very
flags were everywhere.
everywhere, right? And then
Yeah,
we were able to use that for the Iraq war. Like
yeah,
the Americans going into there were like, oh yeah, well if you don't support the troops, right? Like,
right.
and that's kind of how what George was so good with this stuff when he was doing all of this. Like it's not just Nazi stuff for the stormtroopers and stuff. It is like it all fits, right? It fits all of this stuff, and that's some of the steps that get taken during like war. They try to make you very nationalistic, and that's what the Senate is doing. So much so that the Jedi again were like, we can't have an act against the Senate. We can't do this because it would look wrong. Um, so yeah, just really cool how they made this all work here. So Anakin takes off. He finds Asajj, and Asajj is, hey, whoever hit me took my lightsabers. He doesn't believe it, right? But he's like, you're the only one she's talked to, and that gets the light bulb off in Asajj's head. She says, no, there was somebody that she called named Barriss, and Anakin has to believe this because no way Asajj is pulling the name Barriss out of her behind. It's not like she's like John. John was the guy's name. Like, like it was a specific person
It was, yeah.
that he was able to be like, oh, and that's who told you to go to the thing. All right. Like he's like, hey, if you lie though, I'm coming back to get you. He takes off and he goes to see Barriss. And he's smart here. He grabs her lightsaber before she can, and he's just like acting like he's inspecting it, all this kind of stuff. But what he's doing here, and as she's starting to, the reason why he had to grab that lightsaber is to make her have to pull out Asajj's lightsabers. Otherwise, if that one was left unattended, she would have just instinctively grabbed for her normal one. There would have been no proof. He needed to make sure that she was unarmed, so that way she was forced to pull out Asajj's lightsabers, which I thought was brilliant by Anakin. He's very good at this. You can see why he becomes Darth Vader.
Yes. The most powerful ruler in the world.
So they start to fight, and he has this great line of, you should have gotten rid of them, and she says, I think they suit me. Which was cool. Palpatine at the trial is trying to say this is some sort of separatist scheme because Ahsoka was seen with Asajj and all that great stuff. The Temple Guards start to corner Barriss and Anakin. Barriss has, again, another great line. The only thing the Jedi believe in is violence, right? Before they weren't supposed to be part of wars. She is starting to see that they're part of the Clone Wars. She jumps out of a window and they continue fighting. And we get some cameos here, Logan. We see the younglings from the Youngling arc earlier in the season here, witnessing as they're training, seeing Anakin and Barriss fighting. Were you happy to see them again?
Yeah, I love seeing little kids that get killed later on. They're my favorite. The little Padawans that get killed.
And it's funny, they're scared of Barriss here, but they should be scared of Anakin.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they're kind of cheering this on, but then there has to be some weird flashbacks that happen whenever he breaks into
Master
the temple.
Skywalker.
It's like, give me your head. That's what.
But that's why this scene works now. That's why that scene works now, because like they see him and like doing this stuff. He's a savior to them. He is,
he's their hero.
He's their hero. So obviously they go up to him saying, hey, what should we be doing? And they're kind of taken aback when he decides to slash them all up.
Right.
Anakin wins. The court trial is already almost over. They're about to read the decision. Anakin enters and says, here's the true traitor, Barriss Offee. And Barriss confesses. She says that the Jedi are responsible for the war. They lost their way. And that they are an army fighting for the dark side, and the Republic is failing, and it's only a matter of time. She nails it. Mm-hmm. She nails it. She did it the wrong way, but she's not wrong. Anakin and Ahsoka share a smile. The council are talking to Ahsoka, and boy, do they fumble this. Mace, in particular, he's like, "This was your trial. We see it now. Like,
Yeah.
this was your path to become a Jedi Knight." And Ahsoka's like, "That's BS." He
Right.
says, "You have become a better Jedi than you would have without it. No, you didn't believe in me. You forced me out, and I
Right.
almost got executed. This is not something you can sweep under a rug."
Right. Yeah. You passed with flying colors. I told you this was the test. Gosh, everything about it made my skin crawl. I was like, this is unbelievable that they're trying to explain this. Like, they're gaslighting her. Like, they're like, no,
They
we
are,
really
yeah.
did. We really tried. Like, this was it. This is, every Jedi to become a Jedi Master has to go through this trial. And I'm like, what the hell was Anakin's then? Like, what was Anakin's trial? Like, what exactly went? Was it Qui-Gon dying? That wasn't much of a challenge to him. Like, he joins
So
Obi-Wan and he's kind
usually,
of reckless. Like,
so to really clear it up, yes, each Jedi goes through the Jedi trials
right.
to become a Jedi Knight, and they're usually specific to the Jedi. Like they'll do something that whatever the Master wants to do to be like, can you pass this test, type of thing. And Anakin's, I don't know if it's canon anymore, but it was like the original. Do you remember the original Clone Wars series? They were
Mm,
like hand drawn 2D art. They were
mm,
like 5 minute long things, and they aired on Cartoon Network between episodes 2 and 3. And the last episodes of those aired, the second season, I think it was, aired like right like a month or a week or something before Revenge of the Sith. And it actually ends with like Palpatine getting captured by Grievous, and then them going into space and doing the space battle that then immediately opens into Revenge of the Sith. So
gotcha.
that's
Okay.
what they had done.
Yeah.
I don't think those are really canon anymore, but they originally were like almost like a testing ground for doing this show.
Okay. That makes sense.
But in there, he does do a trial that then like they cut off his Padawan braid, and he becomes a Jedi Knight. In this, when we started off with the Clone Wars, he was already promoted to Jedi Knight. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that really still counts or not, but yeah. So Anakin did do some sort of trial. I forget what it was. Obi-Wan's was defeating Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Literally, like
Right.
that was something they were like, all right, yeah, he's ready. He
Yeah.
killed a Sith. We haven't done that in 1,000 years,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I think he's
Which they
ready.
should have stripped him of that title as soon as Maul came
Yeah,
back.
they're
Like,
like,
yep,
actually, you
no,
can't be a
you're
master
a Padawan
anymore.
again.
You
Yeah. You have to start all
Padawan
over
says,
again. Oh
you
man.
actually failed your trial. Darth Maul
Yeah.
survived.
All right.
But
Was Anakin's trial the slaughtering of Tusken Raiders? They're like, that's there it is, and
yeah,
it's
they're like,
like, oops.
we now know. No, nobody knows that happened. Uh,
That's true. That's true.
so they've done stuff like that before. They're like, actually, this is retroactively your trial, but it comes across so wrong here because
Yeah.
they didn't believe her. Because it's like trying, like I said, to sweep it under the rug,
Mhm.
like you said, gaslighter, to say, uh, actually, everything's okay now. We caught the
Right.
real person. It'd be kind of like Logan if you were arrested for murder and nobody believed you, not even
Right.
Ashley, right? And then you get cleared, like during your trial, like,
Yeah.
or evidence comes up and they arrest somebody else after you're convicted and you get reversed and you get out of prison.
Yeah.
And you come home and Ashley's like, I've always believed in you, babe. Like, let's renew our vows. And you'd be like, what? Like, no, you abandoned me.
Right.
Like, that's what it's like if you want to put it into like a regular person's point of view.
Yeah.
Is like the person is trying to be like, I was actually there for you the whole time. I believed you the whole
Right.
time. And you're like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. But I did find it very interesting the way that they portray Obi-Wan in this sense. So everybody else besides Obi-Wan and Anakin really 100% just were like, nope, Ahsoka did it. Until they prove that she's innocent, she did it. Even Yoda. And it was like, okay. And so then Obi-Wan is more of like, okay, we see kind of what we did wrong here. Whereas Anakin's like, I saw it the whole time, but I really couldn't tell you because they don't trust me, kind of thing. So it really was. It was very interesting that those layers upon layers upon layers, and then when she takes off the braid, she's like, "No, I'm done," which I found very interesting. She's just like, "I'm done with this. Like, don't have the braid anymore. Don't need
Closes
my
his
lights.
hand on
Yep.
it. Yeah.
Like, I don't need it. I don't need I don't need this, whatever this is. But then I started thinking about it, Jordan. I was like, where the hell are the women on the Jedi Council? Where the hell are they? Because I
Yeah,
feel like
run by a lot of old
like
men.
old dudes. It's like, what is this? The U.S. government. So
There's
it's
still
like
more diversity on the
there,
Jedi Council.
yeah.
Um,
But there are some women, right? Like I'm not kidding. Like there's holograms of what's her name on the council in there. Um,
uh,
who is it? I can't remember her name.
I'll look up Jedi Council at the time of Revenge of the Sith.
I swear there was a woman on it at some point. But maybe she died.
There have been, there have been during. Oh, Shakti. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, Shakti. Stas Ali, which is somebody that looks like Adi Gallia.
Yes.
I believe it's her cousin. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's the thing. I think what happened at some point is they had the design for Adi Gallia for episode 1. I don't think they got the same actress for episode 2. And instead of for some reason just saying she's recast, the people that make this were like, "Oh, that's a new guy. That's a new character."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Okay, but they look very close
Yeah,
to
you
the same."
can't
Like,
give
yeah,
them
that's her
Spain.
cousin.
Right.
That's her cousin. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with Agent Kolar and Eth Koth. They both look very similar. Oh, Depa Billaba is a member of the Jedi Council at the time. Luminara. But yeah, we don't see them during these scenes. They're usually off doing other stuff. I guess Ayla Secura was not part of the council. I thought she was, but I guess not.
I would just say if there was a woman on this council, like she would have been.
Yeah, maybe they'd be like,
yes,
believe all women.
Right.
Ahsoka didn't do this.
Ahsoka didn't do this. Like, let's think through this, guys. Whereas the men are like, no, let's react.
Yeah, let's react.
We're very good at that.
I don't want to look weak in front of the chancellor.
Right.
Yeah, we gotta react.
Right. Blame somebody. Blame the teenage kid that's learning.
Yeah.
You get it. Yep.
I mean, I love this exchange between Ahsoka and Anakin, though, where, the council didn't trust me. How can I trust myself?
Right.
What about me? I stood by you, And she says, I can't stay here any longer. He says, the Jedi Order is your life. You can't just throw it away like this. You're making a mistake. She says, maybe, but I have to do this. And he says, I understand. I understand wanting to walk away from the Order. And she says, I know. So obviously she understands. He hasn't been great at hiding it, but like she's able to know, like, hey, I know you've thought about this before. She knows about Padme, I think, more than anybody else does. And Anakin just watches her walk down the steps. And that is the end of Ahsoka's. What if I told you that was the last time you see her in the show?
I would be shocked, but I know it's not.
Yeah, I'm lying. Yeah.
I was gonna say I would be shocked, but I know that you do, because I see, me. I'm an IMDb freak, so I have seen the thumbnails that she does return. She returns, and Ahsoka will return in season 6.
7.
That's right.
I don't think. Yeah,
that's
she's
right.
not in
She
season
doesn't come
6
in 6
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Is that shocking?
That is, yes.
A whole season without Ahsoka.
Yep, that is.
It's kind of her show.
I thought for sure she'd end up in like the last couple episodes of 6, leading into 7. Because she does.
Well, here's the thing: there was no leading into 7.
That's true.
The show was officially canceled.
So why did they do it? Was it because they had to set up the Bad Batch in Order 66? Like, was that the idea?
No. So here is the thing. So the show was actually supposed to keep running probably until season 8.
Okay.
And they had arcs and episodes that were already in the works when they got canceled. So season 6 is pretty much the finished ones of those.
Okay.
That they'd already finished, that were ready to air, but they were canceled. So then those just went to Netflix. And anything that was originally scheduled for season 7 and the rest of season 6 was eliminated. Like they pretty much just iced. Disney at that point didn't want to do anything with the prequels because of the prequel backlash. Look, so if you think there's sequel backlash, people, there was a time when the prequels were seen as the things that killed Star Wars. All right, so there's always something that killed Star Wars. In 1983, it was Return of the Jedi. There were some people that didn't like that. That's in How I Met Your Mother. Remember, I've already talked
Yeah.
about the Ewok line. Like, there's
Yep.
people that like Ewoks, there's people that don't like Ewoks, right? So even since 1983, there were people saying that killed Star Wars, right? And then you had the Ewok films, the TV films that killed Star Wars. Then you had, there was also the holiday special that killed Star Wars right after Star Wars came out. And then you had the prequels, and that really killed Star Wars. So much so there's a movie called The People versus George Lucas, which I watched. It is awful. Like, the movie, I think, is good from what I remember, but like what they did was awful. It's the same stuff they're doing to Kathleen Kennedy and
Hmm.
Star Wars right now, where they just
Everything
vilify
is awful.
whoever's in charge of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And say that they don't really understand Star Wars. They said that to George. They did that to George. There's a reason George probably was fine with selling the company. I'll say that, right? Like, he had to put up with this all the time. So, but he didn't really pay attention to that. He was like, whatever. George did not care. He's like, I
Right.
do what I want. It's my universe. F you. He doesn't care. So the prequels were derided, so much so that when Disney came up, there was pretty much like a mandate. It's believed, right, to be like, all right, we're not touching prequel stuff. So much so, J.J. Abrams was joking about putting a Gungan skeleton in the Force Awakens that would be Jar Jar. Like, there was those type of jokes that were going around. How fast that has changed to now, where like people that hate the sequels are like, the prequels have always been good. They've never been derided, and it's like, no, that is BS. So this show got canceled. Also, it aired on a rival network, Cartoon Network. So Disney was not going to have that. Disney immediately starts putting in a new show called Rebels. And guess when that takes place? Right before episode 4, the original trilogy. And that was their, hey, we're going back to the original trilogy. We're not touching the prequels. We're going to look, even the beginning of The Force Awakens, Max von Sydow's character says this will begin to make things right. He's referring to the prequels, okay? It is a line by J.J. Abrams at a shot at the prequels, which is fine, by the way. I don't care if J.J. Abrams likes the prequels or not.
Right.
So all of that stuff we're going, I mean, I sound scatterbrained right now, but I just more stuff keeps popping in. The whole thing behind The Force Awakens with the ad stuff, there's stuff where Mark Hamill saying practical effects, real sets. That again is another dig to the prequels, where people say there's too much CGI in the prequels.
Hmm.
So they're like, we're not doing CGI in the sequels. They did, but like they're saying most of these characters and most of these sets are going to be real sets, real effects to make it look like the originals. So that was all building to that. But then guess what? The kids that grew up with the prequels still liked them. And Clone Wars was starting to become very well regarded and constantly watched, to the point where Disney was like, actually, we have to get in on this. And I forget when it was, 2018, 2019, somewhere around there, that they officially announced at Star Wars Celebration the return of Clone Wars. And that was season 7. And what those episodes are pretty much ones that had been in the works originally, and they took 12 of those and said, we're going to make these as episodes. So they already had those scripts like ready to go. They already had some of the voice work done for them, actually. They just had to kind of finish the animation and or do the animation. So because there was a lot of celebrations where they actually had animatics and schematics of these like episodes. People already knew who the Bad Batch were because they appear in season 7, but before the show was canceled, they had been shown schematics of it or like animatics of stuff. And we know so much. Actually, there was an arc about Asajj that ended up getting scrapped when it was canceled, and it became a book. And there's a Maul arc. Remember how Maul at the end of last week, Palpatine's like, hey, I still have plans for you? We
Hmm.
don't see that in this show, actually, because that arc was scrapped when it was canceled, and it became a comic book.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so there's stuff like that. So, it wasn't like we're reversing course and making a whole new season. It was like we're gonna finish the stuff that we were always trying to get to, and they just had to pick like the 3 arcs that they were like, this is what we're gonna pick: the Bad Batch arc, an Ahsoka arc, and then the final arc that's gonna lead into Revenge of the Sith. And that is how they ended up working it out. So there you go. There's the long-winded story of why season 6 and 7 are so much shorter,
Yeah.
and why some of this stuff ended up kind of falling as missing arcs.
It is interesting just because I was like, I thought it was strange that they went short with the last 2 seasons because of how good this show has been, or was. So I was like, why? I wonder why. And then why there was that huge gap, and then all of a sudden, and then the year it releases is 2020, which is wild to me to think that that obviously was created before and then released during a year where nothing was really being shown.
Yeah.
New. So
that was great. I mean, it was like right
Yeah.
after Mando was in end of 2019.
Yep.
And then we ramped up to this great final season of the Clone Wars, and it was at a time where the world was standing still. Nobody was
Right.
doing anything, and you were able to sit at home and watch them. It was great.
Kind of like Ted Lasso. Like, it was like all those
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
that became so popular because they'd gotten lucky enough to have finished it and then produced it. And in 2020, people were just looking for anything and everything that was new because of what had happened. So
Yeah, so the comic arc for Darth Maul is a 4-episode arc that was changed into it was going to be a season 6 arc, and it became a comic book called Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. Is what that is. And the Dark Disciple book was an 8-episode arc with Asajj Ventress and Jedi Quinlan Voss, which were supposed to be season 6 and 7 episodes. That became a book, which is a really good book, by the way. Really good book. But yeah, so that's how those happened. Season 6 aired all on March 7th of 2014 on Netflix after it was canceled. And that is also why, if you notice when you're watching season 6 and 7, while most of these arcs are going to be the big ones, because those were the ones that were prioritized to finish, and all that stuff when canceled. So it was like bam, bam, bam. You're going to get a lot of good stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the end of the Ahsoka arc for season 5, and the end of her arc for the original batch of episodes until season 7, when the show returned. So for a while, people had no clue what happened to Ahsoka until she appears in some of these later shows like Rebels. But this was always an option as well, right? When we talked about how people always thought she had to die, this was an option of, okay, she could also just walk away from the order. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened here, which was good that she didn't have to die. But there, for a while, that was the last we saw of her, walking down those steps, and that was it. All right, but you can follow us at podawakens on all of our social media, podawakens@gmail.com for long-form content. Next week, we are talking the beginning of season 6, which are The Unknown, Conspiracy, Fugitive, and Orders. So make sure you check those out. Those are the next episodes. Gets into some really good stuff there. And those episodes are written by Katie Lucas, who does another fabulous job with those episodes. All right, well, we will catch you next time when we talk the beginning of season 6. Season 5 is done.